one of the things that really struck me, Dr. Tarbox, was people talking about sleep issues.
Absolutely.
And they were talking about it from both perspectives, parents having sleep issues because of some of the stress that they've gone through, and the fact that if the child can't sleep, then automatically you have two people who can't sleep, right?
That's right, yeah, absolutely.
So I thought maybe we could start with you talking a little bit about sleep issues and research that there may be and what you know about that.
Sure, absolutely. Well, first I'll start off by saying it's not necessarily my major area of expertise, but I have done a little bit of research and a little bit of treatment in the area, and I'm fairly familiar with literature. And it is, first of all, it is very common among kids with ASDs, which I don't need to tell your listeners that. They know that. Very, very common, though, among these kids to have challenges with sleep. And like you say, it really does impact the whole family. Everyone kind of knows, everyone expects this when you have a new baby, right? That the first few months or the first year, you're going to be somewhat sleep deprived. It's going to make you feel kind of crazy. It's going to make you feel exhausted. It's going to be a major challenge, but not everybody knows that those challenges can continue, especially if you have a child on the spectrum. And so really, I mean, we hear reports of, families literally just falling apart due to total sleep deprivation for the whole family. And there's good research that shows that if you don't get enough sleep, it disrupts every major system. It makes, increases depression, anxiety, exhaustion, causes problems for things even like weight loss, memory, learning, I mean, you name it. Sleep is just a core critical function that your body needs, period. So luckily, there are some good treatments that do actually work. Unfortunately, the vast majority of people in the autism community aren't aware of them, which, how often do we say that? And unfortunately, most in the medical community are not aware of sleep treatments that actually work. And so what we usually hear from kids and families that we work with is they've gone to all their major medical doctors, who are specialists in sleep. They do all sorts of assessments, EEG tests, everything you can think of. And still at the end of the day basically say, well, yeah, your child has difficulty sleeping.
Wow.
Right, so which can be incredibly frustrating and frankly just not very practical. So one way to go is medication. Of course, that's what medical doctors do, is they prescribe medication. That's their job. Some medications may be helpful for some kids. However, like anything else, when we're talking autism, the first line treatment should always be less intrusive, right? And so anytime you're talking medications, you're talking about potential side effects. There aren't any medications that don't have at least some potential side effects. So best to always try behavioral and educational interventions first, because generally speaking, they have a much lower risk of side effects. So there are a number of behavioral procedures that do work, and happily, it actually does kind of come down to good old-fashioned ABA common sense. Most sleep disorders come down to building up of habits among the family, among the parents and the children that contribute to disordered sleep or disturbed sleep. So put simply, if you let your kids sleep in your bed, they're going to continue to sleep in your bed. And that's not necessarily just the case with kids on the spectrum. That's with all kids, right? So plenty of typically developing kids end up sleeping in their parents' bed till way older than they really should be. And really, honestly, what it comes down to is the kid wants to do it. Oftentimes the parents want to do it because it feels good, right? Especially if you have a kid with a disability. You want to do everything you can to make them feel happy and make them feel comforted. And sleeping together does that, right? So that's one thing. If your issue is co-sleeping or the child continuing to sleep in your bed, is really what it comes down to is if you let them do it, they're going to do it, okay? Another issue is scheduling. And so a lot of kids on the spectrum, we don't know why, but a lot of the kids on the spectrum don't naturally want to go to sleep at a reasonable time and don't naturally want to sleep all night. And we don't know why. It could easily be some neurochemical thing going on, some kind of hormones that are too high or too low, or some kind of who knows what, right? So there probably is some biological basis for it. However, once you build it up as a habit, and so a child builds up sort of a habit or a history of being awake multiple times per night, or even being awake up all night and then napping during the day, then what that does is that sets you up physiologically to want to do the same thing the next night, right? Because if you sleep all day, you're not going to be tired at night. So basically, there's a lot of details to it. It's not really this simple, but the most simple advice I can give is it does come down to setting up a good schedule, setting up clear expectations, and having clear rules that you follow through with. And so the one thing that honestly has been proven to work consistently is a clear bedtime, and just following through.
Yeah.
So if it's time to go to sleep at 9 p.m., then that's it. And your kid needs to stay in their bed, and they don't get to get out of bed, and they don't get to do anything else until the set time to wake up in the morning. So whether it's 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., whatever it is, you just stick to your guns. Now, some of your listeners might be thinking, oh, easy for you to say. You're not the one that has to stay up all night and do it, right? Well, I have been the one who stayed up all night and done it.
In fact, you have when you were talking about the sleep deprivation with a new baby, you have a relatively newer baby.
11-month-old baby.
Yes.
Yep,
so
exactly.
He's not just talking from someplace far, far away. He is familiar with the sleep deprivation.
Right. And it's not common to see this, but some ABA providers will actually go and spend the night at your house for a couple nights to fix this problem, to help you fix it. Because really it is just a matter of you being consistent with your rules and your sleep routine with your child. But it can be extremely emotionally difficult to do that.
Yes.
So if your child is crying and screaming and saying, I want to sleep with you, Mommy, why can't I sleep in your bed? What are you doing to me? You don't love me.
Right.
Of course the natural reaction is to want to take the child, hug them, put them in your bed. Obviously, right? That's only human. But what that teaches your child is, okay, you don't have to sleep in your own bed, and you don't have to go to bed. You can stay awake with me. All you have to do is cry and scream and guilt trip me, right?
Right.
So it's funny, my wife actually is also a BCBA. She just did this for a family just a couple weeks ago. She and one of the other employees at her agency went and spent the night at a family's house. They did 2 or 3 nights in a row, actually, switching off between different staff members. And basically, the intervention was very simple. Set up a reasonable sleep schedule and don't allow the child to leave their bed. So if they get up out of bed, you just simply put them back in bed. It's not mean, it's not punitive, it's just disallowing the child from escaping from the bed.
Yeah, I imagine really important that in that moment, the person who's doing it has to be well rested previous to this.
Right.
Which is why having help and support to do it, because you want to have sort of a not, you said it's not punitive, so having a
it's not emotional,
physical reaction, a non-vocal reaction to putting them, you just literally like putting a loaf of bread in the bed with no emotion whatsoever,
That's exactly
which is hard to do.
No struggle. Yeah, it can't be an argument, it can't be a struggle. And let me say, too, that you front load this whole process with lots of positive stuff. So before you put your kid to bed the first time, you read a story, their favorite story, you have their favorite food for dinner, whatever it is, lots of snuggling, everything happy, positive. Decorate the room with all their favorite stuff. You know, if they're not used to sleeping in their room, then you get all their favorite posters, teddy bears, whatever. Everything positive you can think of. Maybe even there's stories you can get to read your child about, Jimmy learning to sleep in his bed, by himself, these types of things. Do all that good, happy, positive stuff first. And so what you're doing is you're setting your kid up for success. And then, quite honestly, though, they are going to cry and they are going to be upset. If they're used to sleeping in your bed and not having to go to bed every night for the last 5 years or 8 years or 10 years, they're going to expect that. And just like when you do extinction for any other challenging behavior, when you first do extinction, which just means not rewarding the behavior, right? And when the child's used to that behavior getting rewarded, they're going to have what's called an extinction burst, which means they're going to try harder.
Right.
So if they normally would do a little guilt trip to get you to sleep in their bed, now they're going to do a really big guilt trip.
Right.
Okay.
Because they have to work harder to get what they wanted.
Exactly.
I know, and if I do, I'm going to get what I want. So.
Exactly. And I'll tell you what, if you give in then, you've just taught them, no problem. You don't have to sleep in your own bed. Just try harder.
Yeah. Okay. We've got a question that's come in about something else. I just wanted to check and see if it was about this. If you see me squirming a little bit, it's because I'm hearing all these things and going, oh, guilty as charged.
We've all done it, and again, it doesn't matter if your kid's on the spectrum or not. We've all done this with our kids.
Okay. All right. But I think key, and what you just said that really rang a bell with me, is not having an expectation that we necessarily can do this by ourselves with what we currently have.
Right.
That maybe you do have. Maybe you have to ask your ABA provider. If you don't have that, maybe you have to ask a friend to say, "Hey, can you come over and do this for me during the day so I can sleep all day so that I'm prepped to be able to do this."
That's right. Or family members, aunts, uncles, cousins, whoever. If you can get them, on the same page with you, and if they're going to follow through, and be a team player with you, absolutely, any support you can get. But the main thing is, and this is true with any time you're going to do extinction, the main thing is, don't do it if you're not going to follow through. So you need to have a real, honest conversation with yourself beforehand and ask yourself, am I really going to be able to do this? Am I really going to be able to follow through? And to what extent, how far is my child going to push it? And can I follow through up to that level? And if I'm not sure, don't even do it.
Okay.
Because you
It's
will
not
make the
time
problem
yet.
worse. Yeah. Wait
time
until
yet.
you have more resources, until you have a better plan, until you have more support, whatever it is.
Okay.
But just don't do it if you can't
Okay.
follow through.
Great advice.